For the last 3 years, between recording segments of the D6 generation, Russ, Craig, and Rafe have had various conversations that have spanned the interests of gamerdom worldwide. This is one of those conversations.
D6G, The Lost Chapters.
Well, hello and welcome back to The Lost Chapters. You're here at Dunkin' Donuts with our good friend Angelo. How you doing, Angelo?
I'm doing great. Hello, everyone.
Always we like to call you Mr. La Quinta.
Thank you.
I don't think we have to do that. Angela, what are you picking up at Dunk's tonight?
Well, straight coffee. I had to drive by 4 Krispy Kremes. Dunkin' Donuts in Texas are not very common. I found one, and they have this donut with a pink glaze, which I'm going to have in honor of my daughters, and they ran a hose to the coffee machine for me, so I am
Nice.
ready to go.
Good to go.
Nice.
Excellent. Sounds
Nice.
good. I myself have some iced coffee, and I got a little of that Texas toast grilled cheese action. I'm looking for second dinner, as the hobbits would put it.
Now, did you guys see those cool heart-shaped yeast donuts they had at Dunkin' Donuts back at Valentine's Day?
No, I missed that.
Those were cool, and they kind of defy physics. I'm not really sure how they made those. I'm still trying to figure that one out. As a former donut maker myself, I used to make donuts
right.
with Mr. Donut. I'm still trying to figure out how exactly they made it.
You used to do that.
I did. I used to be the Mr. Donut guy. That was me.
No, I forgot.
11 p.m. till 7 in the morning.
You were the time to make
the donuts.
guy.
Yep. Got me through college, baby. All right.
Someplace a cardiologist is just having problems with a donut shaped like a heart. There's just
Right.
so many
kind of
things you can say.
Mixed metaphor there. So we thought today would be great, since we have Angelo on the show, to talk about gaming lairs. We've mentioned them on and off throughout the long 99-episode season of the D6 generation.
I love that.
But we thought we might be kind of fun to talk in depth about them, about how Craig and I, our current lairs are, and Angelo apparently has had more lairs than anyone should really be allowed, I think.
And Angelo, haven't you just recently finished your new lair?
Absolutely. It was my Christmas present from my wife to myself. We had an unfinished room off the house that had been sitting there idle since we moved in, and I was in a leftover game room. The time we moved into this house, work was pretty intense. I wasn't doing a lot of gaming, so it was half storage, maybe a little bit of a painting facility with a computer here and all my personal stuff over there. And my wife endeavored. She ran the project and actually built me a brand new game room.
Wow.
And I'm in the process of getting settled into it.
Your wife is awesome, dude. That's fantastic.
So before we go, we want to know every little detail, because knowing you, it's probably got some really cool James Bondy elements to it.
And really good beds and a good maid service.
I've been working. Yeah, they
Tell us,
really
does your lair have a turn down service?
If I can't talk about it because we have disclosure, and if I tell you that I'm using work resources for my personal work, I'll have to fill out all kinds of forms. So let's just say that I'm not getting any chocolate on my
There's no mints,
table.
no Andy's candies.
No mints.
Aha. Okay.
So, Angelo, why don't you tell us why do you need a gaming lair, TM?
First, I thought it was so my wife could banish me to a room in the house. But the reality is it's a hobby that takes a lot of space and has a lot of different facets to it, whether it's modeling, playing, storage, just spending time with your toys. It really does create a way for you to enjoy your hobby. I was up in my gaming room the other day watching The Walking Dead on Zune. And
Good choice.
Yeah, I've enjoyed just tinkering, putting stuff where it wants to, and it allows you to get your hobby time in small segments, and really, you don't want to say keep it removed from your family because you want your family involved in it, but it's just not conducive to the hobby to break it down and put it away, break it down and put it away. The number of books, the number of models, the number of craft kits, you really want a space to call your own.
Agreed. I think Craig and I mentioned on the show before that it's much easier to get in, modeling time if you can just quickly sit down, do a little painting for 20 minutes, and then stand up and walk away, than if you have to, open up the paint kit, unpack it all, set up the little table in the living room, get some painting in, then pack it all up, put it away. You start not to do it because you're like, I don't feel like setting everything up and tearing it all down.
A little bit later in the show, I'm going to share with you my Swiss Army solution to that statement.
Nice.
Which I completely agree with the sentiment, and I built my room around the ability to paint 5 minutes at a time if I want to.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
I'm
very
looking forward to
nice.
hearing that. So when you're starting to play, let's say people are listening along at home, and they're thinking, gee, I'd like a gaming lair, all of my own. What should we consider when you're designing the ultimate gaming lair? What should go into the consideration for that?
Well, I had the luxury of building mine from stud walls up. So while the space was predefined, the form and function of it wasn't. So we sat down with graph paper and we really focused on storage, which is a huge part of the hobby, then play space versus craft space, and then we wanted to include splinter hobbies. So a wall-mounted television with Xbox, Apple TV, a desk for the computer, that's going to cross over. It's going to have gaming applications, but it belongs in a man cave. And then really focus on privacy for the family and accessibility. So if I'm going to play games at 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't need loud laughter waking the baby up. Right. So all of that went into it. And then some simple things, number of electrical outlets, even the placement of the lights. I put a can light exactly over where I paint and then put 4 more kind of bracketed over the game table so you really have great light when you're in the room.
Yeah, I think that's all awesome, and but I think the key really in 2 of these areas here you're talking about, which are really important. First is storage. Not all of us have the space to have a full dedicated gaming area like you do, which is fantastic. I wish I did, but I do have storage configured in such a way to keep the gaming stuff out of the way of the rest of the family. Right, so I've put most of the time in my gaming area into getting really good closet management going on in there. They have some great shelving kits you can get really pretty affordably at Home Depot or Lowe's. Rubbermaid in particular makes a really good one. You hang them all up. You just put a couple mounts up there, and you can rearrange the shelves however you like. Get them exactly the right height for your games. You can put them sideways or flat down or whatever you like for your labels. Also, I've got a pretty good I don't want to call it an armoire, but it sort of looks like that. It's actually an old TV. Back in the day when TVs were deep and you had those little cabinets that opened up and held them inside there, like most of your hotels probably have.
Yes.
So these, I have one of those down in my basement with the roll-out keyboard from the computer, and that all transforms into a giant painting station. But it all goes back and closes up so that everything's concealed away and kind of put out of the way. So you definitely want to look at ways you can sort of keep your hobby accessible without driving your wife and your family crazy with models hanging all over the place.
And if you do have a dedicated space, I've had good luck breaking my storage into kind of hidden storage and then display storage. So I have closet doors that are going to hide the box games and the binders, everything that is a little less attractive, and then some wall-to-wall shelving that's designed to hold your books or your finished armies, the things that you want to use. Next up on my project list, I've got a wall. It's 12 feet run, and I'm going to build the entire thing with 12-inch by 12-inch cubbies. And actually build the bookshelves out so I can either use them as bookshelves, use them as miniatures, or slide those little storage baskets that you'd get at Target to hold things that are less attractive, all right there at my fingertips.
Now, Craig, you've done something similar to what Angel's talking about with your McNerdigan's Pub.
I'm listening to. I love my pub. I love McNerdigan's Pub. I think it's great. But as I'm listening to Angelo, I'm like, on some of these levels, the pub is an epic fail. For instance, there's almost no storage space, and I had the same opportunity as Angelo. This entire room was finished from the studs out, and the storage that I built into it, I have built-in bookshelves that are built into the walls, but they're designed specifically to hold paperback novels. Yeah. Which is awesome, and I like that, but it's not my room is more, it actually looks, in my head anyway, like a pub that I can then sort of transform into a gaming space. So my lighting's not that great because I wanted it to look like nice pub lighting, and the play space is good for, you can get 2 solid 4x6 game tables in here and still have plenty of room for people to sit around and watch, or like when we have upcoming PattyCon, it kind of breaks down a little bit more. And you could probably get 4, maybe 5 if they're all good friends gaming like little mini groups in here, and then it spills out into the rest of the house. But my storage is all elsewhere, pretty much. And what I've done is I've spent most of my focus and effort on theme to make it look more like a pub, and it works like a game room, and I love it, but it's not optimized as a game room. I'm only realizing right now.
Well, yours is more optimized for atmosphere, especially for role-playing games, right? It's got a
That's
great...
true. It does. It is good for role-playing.
Sort of dungeon / pub atmosphere. And it does have a working fridge and a working bar. So,
That is true. That is
just
very
saying.
true.
Both key.
Right. So I think that's great. I think, Angelo, yours sounds like pretty much almost the dream scenario there.
Yeah, we have easy access to a refrigerator and a restroom. What makes mine situationally unique is soundproofing. So, like I said, most of my gaming occurs at night when everyone's sleeping. The room, and we don't have basements in Texas, so it had to be built within kind of the main chamber of the home. So it's up on the second floor. We have a second staircase that'll bring you right out by the game room, so you don't have to walk in front of all the kids' bedrooms to get here. Then it's 2 rooms removed from the hallway with soundproofing in the walls and then a pair of hardcore doors between it and the hallway. So we can literally be in here with both doors closed, making as much racket as we want. I don't have to say, shh, kids are sleeping, and you're not going to hear it. Now, that meant that there was another need when you've got 4 or 5 gamers making noise at 2 a.m., and that was for good ventilation. So a professional HVAC guy came out, oversized the pipe, gave me great, vent in and vent out, so it's always kind of climate controlled and comfortable in here.
Got to control the gamer funk, I'm saying.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Should control that.
Not in my room. Yeah, if you get gamer funk in my room, you have to go home.
Right, you're out. You're out. That's awesome. I think that's one of the biggest challenges I have in my home, and probably one of the reasons that when I play with most of my friends, I do it at a store, because unfortunately for my house, even though I do have a finished basement, the way it's set up, it's really hard to keep the noise from carrying through the rest of the home. So my man cave is really dedicated more to the solo hobby experience and small games with friends, as opposed to being able to have large rowdy space there. I wish I had the room for that, but it doesn't work out, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the one I'm in now doesn't. It's not my largest. It doesn't have room. Because I was like, Craig, it sounds like you have a lot of square footage. I've had game rooms that you could have 2 or 3 fantasy role-playing games, fantasy GW games going on at the same time, and those were great, and they filled a need. And then I had kids, and all that space goes to toys and computers. And this one really is. If I had 4 other people in this room, we would be kind of at capacity. This is really my hobby room with a very specific game purpose in mind.
Yeah. So
cool.
Let's talk about our layers in particular and some of the details here, Angelo. So what have you been? You've had several gaming rooms. How are they different over the past few years?
The need has really changed. My first one, when I was always playing miniatures, everything was on display. It was a large room with 2 4x6 center top cabinets in the middle, and then it was designed to drop another 4x6 board between them, so I could have 3 games. All of the shelving was open display shelving just for miniatures, a couple of bookshelves, a very small closet for terrain. It really was, if it was in the game room, you were face to face with it. There was not a lot of storage. This one is designed the exact opposite in mind. The majority of the time, it's just me, right? So storage, put everything away. I want to walk in my room. I don't want to feel like I'm in a garage sale. I want to feel like I'm in an attic, right? I want to see the books that I want. I want to see finished miniatures on the shelves. If it's not finished, I want to be able to close a door on it. If it's in a box, I want to be able to close a door on it. So about a third of the room is closet space with 3 different bays of closets, all by about 2 by 3 feet, built in to maximize the wall space, all easily accessible, to really put everything there, get it out of the way, close the doors on it. It's got lights inside so I could find everything. Even the back of the doors are in play. This is my concept of making the room a Swiss Army knife. Yep. I ordered these 2 giant acrylic paint holders designed to hold Games Workshop paints.
Oh, nice.
Mount on the back of the wall, get all the paints, all the modeling supplies up and where I can easily get them. They're out of the way. They're not taking up any tabletop space. Mm-hmm. so that they become kind of part of the room. Then inside the room in general, and there's still a little bit of work left to be done on the shelves. I'm doing the woodworking myself. 2 walls, which are temporary shelves on them now, are going to be wall-to-wall built-in shelves. Another wall is the wall-mounted television, Xbox with the Apple TV, and then you got the game table. But there's a kind of a freestanding closet, if you will. It's 2 foot by 2 foot, and the shelves are 12 inches apart, and they're on rollers, like the little roller hinges
I've
that
seen that before,
like the keyboard tray.
Yeah.
So I can pull it out. I can get to the miniatures on display, get to the whole shelf without reaching in, and then slide it back in. I hung one of them at exactly the same level as my desk. I reinforced it, and it's right under a light, so I leave my painting station on it. It's within access of if I open the closet door, it's within I can just reach any paint that I want, so I can literally walk up, pull the rolling shelf out, swing the chair 90 degrees, and immediately start painting. I have a project on it right now. I have some Necrons on it. I have the colors that I'm using out, my paper towels in the back, everything right there. So literally I can walk in here in 10, 15 seconds from the time I sit down, I could be up and painting.
Yeah, I think that's key. That's sort of similar to my little closet because I can open it up and I pull out the tray, and all of a sudden all my paints are right there, my current project's there, and all the colors I'm working with are currently there. And then in the back of the closet I have the larger tray storage for all my paints and my brushes and all my more, flock and everything else is in there. So it's really, you pop the doors open, you can get to work, and then when you're done, if you have a current project, you can actually leave it there, close the doors, and it's not hanging out for my wife to see, paper towels everywhere with half paint on them and all that stuff. So I think you're right. It's key to sort of be able to put it away quickly or be able to get to it easily. So if you have a room where you can leave it out or a room where you can just kind of tidy it up quickly with some kind of neat rolling system or a cabinet, I think that's pretty nice.
That's huge.
And in mine, I also added a natural light lamp, so I can get it all nice and bright in there and see what I'm doing. Also,
that's important.
Go ahead.
That's like the latest kick.
Oh, the natural light lamps. Well, I don't know. I've had it for a while, but I think it definitely helps to. Although the problem with the natural light lamps, I've seen mixed reviews about these. I don't know what you think of these, Angelo. But the natural light looks great, except that when you're actually looking at your miniature normally, you're not in natural light.
Oh, yeah. See, my problem is if I do anything that's going to enhance my painting, it's going to draw attention to the fact that I'm really not a very good painter. I'm going to blame it on lighting. As a matter of fact, I wish I hadn't put such good lighting in here. Now I can see exactly how bad of a painter I am.
Nice. So let's see. We talked about the lighting. We talked about the computers. We talked about all your HVACs. Awesome. Let's see. What about mine? Well, Craig, what about yours? How did the evolution of McNerdigans come along?
Well, when we were looking to buy a house, that was actually part of the deal. Was we were looking for a house that had a space that I could turn into a gaming room, and this house had the ideal space, which was it has a finished addition upstairs with in the main living area, and underneath that was it was unfinished. And it's as far from the bedrooms as you can possibly get. Now, unfortunately, I didn't finish it with a door. I could have easily put a door in, but it's just I just built in and framed up an archway that goes into the next room instead, kind of to continue with the pub feel. I was going to put batwing doors in there and make it feel a little bit like a saloon, but I didn't decide. I decided not to go with that. Although, I don't know, maybe someday. So it's very much as isolated as I can make it. And that's good. Although between my voice and Russ's voice, we've learned that we can still wake the baby up.
Oh yes,
yeah, which is unfortunate, but we've got it as good as we can get it. And then I have a really nice glass-fronted display case that's actually an antique that I got from my grandparents ages ago. So that's the extent of my display, and actually it's not even display, it's just storage at this point. When we moved in, I just needed to shove stuff wherever I could shove it, and a bunch of stuff went in there, and I slowly try to go in there and change things around and make it look a little more presentable, but it's still mostly storage. But the thing that I did, I'm listening to you guys like, oh, computers, blah, blah, to connect, blah, 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 blah. And then I thought, but I did do something. First of all, as Angelo said, it's neat when you're doing it at this level because you can choose where you put in your outlets and how many outlets you put in, which is good because I've got plenty of power in this room. The other thing I did was, because I was finishing the walls on my own, I actually wired the entire room for stereo surround sound.
Nice.
So that goes again to the theme element of the focus of the room. So I have tiny little speakers that are stationed all over the room with no worries about the cabling and everything, because it's actually inside the walls. And I have a sound system that's buried. It's not really buried, but it's hidden away in the bar back area, so that I can do MP3 files. I can do CDs. That's pretty much it. So I don't know why I'm making a sound with my voice as if there are other options, but I'm sure there are others. I could probably hook up a computer over there if I really wanted to.
Don't you have a dedicated podcasting area there now?
It's not a dedicated area. It's actually on an English tea cart.
There you go.
With all of the leaves wide open, so that I have all of my podcasting stuff and multiple screens all set up, so I can scroll from one monitor to the next. So I have multiple things up, which actually makes writing a whole lot easier too, because I can write on one monitor while I have my reference works up on the other monitor. So it's a really neat place, which actually I think is pretty cool, because the entire computer area folds down and actually goes into another little storage area that's built into another piece of furniture that's in the room that you can't see at all. It's a pedestal on a table that doesn't look like it is actually storage. So all of this stuff gets packed away when I don't need it. And we had our very first Halloween party here was actually the year that the Red Sox won the World Series, and it was during one of the World Series games. And so I was feverishly finishing up this room for that party, and I actually brought in some cable from the house cable down here also, so I can hook up a TV if I want over on the bar side of the pub.
Nice.
So a lot of the like I said, a lot of that time and effort here went into theme and ambiance rather than usefulness, although it's proven very useful over the years.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot of great features to tap into. The wiring was interesting that you mentioned. I put a Cat 5 cable on multiple walls, one for the Xbox, one for the computer, ran cable, ran telephone, lots of outlets. Then I also gave myself a masthead into the attic for whatever configuration comes next. So next great technology that needs this super wire, I'll be able to get it into my game room.
Oh, that's
smart
awesome.
move. Well, hopefully it'll be wireless. We're working on that, aren't we?
Yeah, but when there's a wired and a wireless option, Cat 5 is a great example. Sometimes plugging it in is just...
Oh, no, it is. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I just rewired everything down here to be Cat 6, just to, Just to one up you, really, Angela. That's the reason I did it.
The two of you.
Cat 5, Cat 6, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, right?
Oh, well, when I did it, blah, 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 blah. The two of you have been phenomenal.
No, actually, well, my room is, I'm like Angelo. Mine's evolved over time. I've been in this house for a long time. It predates kids by quite a few years when I bought the house. So for me, it used to be the basement was only partially finished. And so when I redid the basement, my dream at that time was I want the ultimate little LAN party room. I did a lot of development. So I wanted to have a set of computers I could do different development on and have, different kind of servers. But then also I dual booted them all so they could all geek out. So my friends could come down here and we could play I think Craig remembers these days, we'd play StarCraft on 4 computers out of my basement, which is a lot of fun because although it's fun to play remotely with these things, it's even more fun to have all your friends in the same room and hear them get yelling and screaming at you when you backstab them, which is just good fun.
Yes.
So that's originally my man cave was all about the computers, and then though I started getting like Angelo, I was really really into miniature games. So then the space became just like how many tables could I cram in and where could I store all the terrain and there was a dedicated area. It was very simple, like a wire rack, almost like a server room with like a VGA monitor with my Xbox and that kind of stuff going on for back in the day for those things. But then it started evolving, and I started getting more into doing painting and stuff, but also into board gaming. But also, as the kids were born and we had to sort of rearrange our house, we realized that my wife and I wanted to do crafting together. So we sort of redesigned my man cave to be sort of a crafting cave, if you will. So half of it originally became sort of a scrapbook area. So half of it was my wife could have a scrapbook, and the other half I could do my painting and stuff while she's here. So we could do a crafting evening where she would scrapbook, I'd be painting, we could just chat and have a nice time. and listen to music or whatever and have a nice little, time together while still doing the things we're passionate about, which is really nice. And that's sort of evolved even more now to be, now the scrapbooking area is sort of turned in, as scrapbooking's gone more and more digital, we do less and less of that, but now that area has become sort of the podcasting studio because we're both passionate about all of our social stuff and sharing things online. So we have a little podcasting area now, so it's less of an ordeal to get the podcasting stuff out. But I still have that cool closet for my modeling, and I just went through, and I think I mentioned this briefly, this little offshoot off the basement here with this little sort of closet thing, and I've sort of transformed that using this Rubbermaid closet organizer stuff. It's awesome. Redid all the shelves in there because you can get them exactly right, so they're just the right height for all my games. And I can cram a lot of games in a very small space, which is really nice. So I'm really enjoying that too, and I'm really enjoying the fact that I can share it. Most of my video gaming now has moved up and into the main parts of the house. So my kids and I play games together, even games like Skyrim and stuff. I'll just play in the living room after they go to the bed. So it's really, and the other problem I have now is I like playing games on the big television so much, and there isn't really room in my crafting room for a giant television. So it's really more. It's changed for me. Video games have sort of moved to become mainstream in my house. I guess kind of like society. Whereas my miniature gaming and my board games are still in the basement. I don't know what that says about me, but there you go.
Well, it's interesting what a change in a simple service can do to your gaming habits. So I have multiple Xboxes, one downstairs, one in my game room, and then one in the theater room. And before I could move my gamer ID easily, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth going upstairs, getting a thumbnail drive, coming down and playing. So I always found myself playing Xbox in the theater room. The moment, what was that, November when they came out with
this last fall, yes.
It completely changed the use of Xbox in our house. We use them everywhere. We use them whenever. I'll be sitting in my room or my game room organizing something, and instead of going in the theater room, the kids will scrunch up on the floor to be in the same room and just play Castle Crashers in here on the TV just because of the environment, and we can all be together. So the Xbox has really made that a lot better for us.
No, we have the same thing. I have an Xbox in my bedroom and in the living room, and it's just been that whole addition of cloud storage, so you can save your games and play them anywhere, and being able to sign in on any gamer tag on any Xbox is just fantastic. And it really does make it really awesome. And the whole gaming experience on the Xbox has gone mainstream in my house. We all play it, even my wife. We all use that service, whether it's viewing television, and even little things like it remembers where you were in the show from service to service, even if you switch Xboxes. So we can be watching, a television show in the living room, and it's getting late, and we're like halfway through a show on Netflix. Like, let's go to the bedroom. Go walk into the bedroom. It remembers exactly where we're on Netflix. We can pick it up. No carrying anything around or anything. It's really nice.
So I am guilty of putting an Xbox in this room, not because I wanted to play, but because I wanted to drive my watching experience through my voice. So the whole thing was just the connected. I've only done it a few times because it's really just sometimes easier to pick up a controller. But I do love being able to say, just got done watching the movie Dune, and I never touched any buttons.
It is cool.
It's just fun to be able to talk to the television.
It is living in the future, and this is a total aside, but yeah, I like it. It's funny. There's all these fancy voice controls that I never use. The only two I really use often is Xbox Pause and Xbox Play. The pizza guy comes in the door, Xbox Pause, you don't have to scramble for the remote control, find where you put it, ask who's got it. Just Xbox Pause, go talk to the pizza guy, get the pizza, Xbox Play, the movie's starting again. It's really awesome. You got greasy fingers, you need to pause the television, no problem, Xbox Pause. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I love the Bing feature to go out and find what I'm going to watch. I think that's great.
And you're right about that, too, because we only have we have two Xboxes but one Kinect. And we're actually getting a new Kinect. This is a total aside now, but we ordered because my wife's a total Star Wars geek. We had to get the Star Wars.
I was going to ask.
Oh, it's coming.
I assumed as much.
It's already been ordered. The R2D2 Connect, Star Wars Connect bundle for the Xbox. Mm-hmm. That's going in the basement because we're transforming the basement. It used to be just more about cave space. Our main part of our basement is a family room that has been done up for the kids when they were younger. So there's like easels there, and all their toys are there, and there's piles of Playmobil everywhere, Disney posters on the wall, all that stuff. But as they're getting older, what we're finding is, now parents will tell you, this is another aside, that video games are bad for your kids because they don't get any exercise. Now, I don't know whose kids these are, but when my kids play video games, they jump up and down the entire time. I don't know if this is unique to my family. So the problem is when they're on the first floor of the house jumping up and down the entire time, and we're in a bedroom on the same floor, you hear the thump, 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 thump all the time. So we want to get them in the basement. Excuse me. So that's
my
the
mom
key.
used to tell me video games were bad for me too, but she now has an iPad and her own Xbox, and I think she logs more hours on them than I do.
Right, exactly. So that whole aside was about getting a connect into the basement to get the kids jumping on the concrete basement floor instead of in the main room. So, but just back to your point about the voice control, we don't have a connect in the bedroom because why would you? You're not going to play connect in the bedroom. But not having the voice control in the bedroom freaks me out all the time. Because I'll sit there and I want to pause the show and I can't do it. And where better to be able to have voice control than when you're lying in bed watching TV, you don't have to find the remote control and everything. So it's really that whole thing is changing, and it's not just Microsoft. A lot of other companies are coming out with voice control for their televisions. They're building them into new televisions now. Apple's talking about doing it, and I think that's a real that's going to be a real game changer too. Not to be too much of an aside, but it's sort of interesting. So let's talk a little bit about. Well, we got a little bit of time left here. Let's talk about what we wish we'd done differently. What are some of our oopses in our gaming layers, Angelo?
I think that the two biggest things that I would do, and part of it I didn't have this option situationally, but we're always working on what our next house is going to look like. My wife's been kind of amateur architecting it out to get exactly what she wants. The game room needs to have a separate entrance where gamers can show up, come into the, not that I don't want them in the main house, but it's going to be quieter, it's going to be easier to just have off the driveway a separate door, come right in, makes it real easy when you're doing modeling. I also want a blown out craft space. I want someplace where I can get one of those airbrush cabinets with the ventilation.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And really bring my hobby to a new level, as opposed to finding a day with low humidity, which isn't always easy, in Texas in the summer. Go outside, get your stuff spray painted, or do your airbrushing in the garage. So I want a dedicated craft area. I want separate entrance, and storage has got to take on a bigger aspect.
Epic storage.
Yeah, and a piece of it is battle boards, right? I have a couple of the realms of battle tables, and I love a good piece of terrain. And I have this image in my mind of modular 2x2 pieces of terrain that I can lay out on my tables. And the only thing that's ever stopped me from building it is, what do you do once they're built? So I've built epic terrain for events and then given it away or discarded it just because it wasn't worth storage. So I want to really have a dedicated storage stack just for terrain.
Yeah. I have to share a little childhood dream of mine once that actually came to fruition for me. So I remember, I grew up with Mr. Rogers. And when you watch Mr. Rogers, he used to always go to his little cabinet and he'd open it up and he'd have all the models from the land of make-believe there. He'd have the castle and the bridge, and he'd bring them out, and he had these little cabinets. And I always thought, I want to have someday cabinets full of little buildings and terrain. Wouldn't that be awesome? And so when we opened our gaming store, we actually had cabinets in the second edition of our store. We had these giant cabinets, and you open up and they're all full of terrain. And that was like my little dream come true. So storage is definitely key, I think. And I wish I had more of it. But the thing about storage is it feels like no matter how much you have, you always need more. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Yeah, the need to call your gaming supplies is real. You've got to go through it every now and then with a pretty discriminating touch.
Yeah, you definitely do. And you also mentioned the gaming, the hood for spray painting. That's a big problem for me too. I will, spray paint when even just priming your models, not just for the airbrush, but priming your models. It's really, really important to have the right humidity and temperature. If you find your models are getting weird colors on them, or the paint's drying bloppy or sandy, that's because your temperature's off. And so what I'll do is, even in the wintertime here in New Hampshire, which we have a lot of, I'll go out and spray the models when it's cold, but I'll bring them inside to dry. So as they dry, the paint thins better, it works better. The only problem with that is your house gets filled with fumes, even just letting them dry inside. So I would kill for a awesome hood that would just let me vent a little spray painting area. But that's kind of a complicated thing to put in your house, but it would be cool.
Yeah. Well, I have a confession to make that I don't know if people notice when they come in and see the pub for the first time, but the pub it's classically dressed out, including it has beadboard wainscoting and then a pretty hefty chair rail that goes all the way around. And I did something when I was doing the measurements for this room, and the wainscoting that goes around. There's two there's 3 exterior walls in the 4-wall room, but one of them has windows, one of them has a door, and one of them just has all the bookshelves. And the ones with the 2 windows, the wainscoting kind of tucks in underneath the window framing. So in my head, I thought, oh, that will actually, like, everything will be great because that actually just will measure it all nicely and it'll just keep going all the way. I have no idea how this happened, but the wainscoting in the far corner that I'm looking at right now actually dips like 3 inches. So
Wow.
it's not true. It's not like square all the way around. Somehow I managed to get a really bizarre little angle in there. And it's the kind of thing that once you notice it, you'll always notice it. But I just kind of hope that most people don't notice it. So one day, although I will never, ever do this, the first thing, if I was going to like dress this up again, I would rip out that wainscoting and redo it. But I'm never going to do that. So I shouldn't even pretend.
Wainscoting, we're on the telly. Little Monty Python for you there, Angel.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that was so only the wainscoting is the problem, Craig. Everything else is
no, of course not. I keep intending to. I mean, I upgrade the lighting for specific games, but I do that with portable lighting. And the last 2 times I've done it, I've managed to break the lamps. Both times I've been trying to remove them. So I would very much like to at some point do something for lighting wise here. And the access to the bathroom, as Angelo was so keen to point out, is a huge thing. And in my house, we have a 1.5 baths. The problem is that the both of them are within 10 feet of each other. So I don't know who designed that. And so bathroom, you have access to the bathroom in my house, but you just have to go upstairs to the rest of the living area, which is kind of annoying. I think for my friends to have to tramp through the rest of the house, and sometimes they feel like they're intruding on Karen whenever she's doing something up there. So I would love to at some point be able to get some kind of a bathroom. I don't see us moving anytime in the foreseeable future, so I'm just talking about things that I would like to add to this room to make it better. And I can't think of anything. Like, I don't know. Right now, I think I've got a good balance between the functionality of the room and the ambiance of the room. And if I were to change anything, I think it would take away from the ambiance, which I really like. So I don't know. The lighting I think I can do on a portable level, so I can address that issue. Storage is somewhere else, so that's just something that I can deal with on a regular basis. And so yeah, what I would like to do is actually has nothing to do with the pub, and it's actually landscaping, because I do have an exterior door.
Yeah.
But right now, you have to actually kind of go through the bush to get there. So I would like to have some kind of like a landscaping element that actually brings people in a nice, even, normal pathway, so that they can go around the house and get to the back door that goes right into the pub.
Sounds like your landscaper and your architect were friends, because one put the bathrooms next to each other and the other guy put a bush in front of your door.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's that about?
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of things about this house that, having lived here for a few years now, I start to wonder what they were thinking.
Well, actually, the big regret I have, or the big part that's missing in my house is actually Craig and I have similar homes in terms of floor plan. The difference is you've got a back extension on your house that I don't have.
Right.
And one of the things is, there's, as I mentioned before, there's no place in this house you can go and be noisy without everybody else hearing it.
Right.
So it's hard to be rowdy, which, it's not a huge thing. But
which is your natural.
Well, A, I'm rowdy, and B, I'm just loud, and B, we have a bunch of friends over. They're going to be rowdy. You want to be able to have fun. So, I'm with you, Angelo. I would love to build, and Nicole and I have talked about this. She really wants a sunroom type situation. So what I'm thinking is we do that extension like you have, Craig, go out the back and build onto the house, but sort of leave the fact that there's sort of these really heavy-duty doors between it and the main house, and then blow that all out and make it nice, and it can make a social area for the home that can be loud and be quiet, but then put one of those nice geek chic tables in there, so it actually has a nice normal-looking table that transforms into a gaming table, and then be able to store your games there under the geek chic table and do all those kind of things. I think that's sort of the dream scenario for me now, because I have a great place to craft, I have a great place to store all my games and do my painting, and even share it with my wife and do my podcasting. What I don't have is a great place to have 6 friends over and game without waking up the kids at 10 o'clock at night. Right. So that's my next big project when and I when they win the lottery or something.
So from a game room redesign, and it was serendipitous, I wanted to put a piece of glass on my tabletop, stop it from getting scratched up, easy to remove paint. So I ordered a piece of 1/4-inch cut glass, and they just asked a very simple question: do I want clear or smoky?
Ooh.
And I almost said smoky, and at the last moment I thought about an application. Best $80 I've ever spent. You can slide your game mats underneath it, like for Pokemon or your playing map. If you're going to play a miniature game, the glass holds it in place. The kids aren't going to bump it, and it's really just given me that a little extra use out of the table that I've really enjoyed. Just being able to say, hey, let's just put that into the glass, and you don't have to worry about it. You can put your drink right on it, move your miniatures around, have a good time with it.
When your kids can spill drinks, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I have to check that out. That's a really good idea. Now, is it regular glass? Did you go plexi, or what'd you get?
It's tabletop glass. It's real glass, but the edges aren't sharp. It's difficult to break. I just called a glass company and had him cut it. I was debating what it was worth in my mind when I called them.
Yeah.
And I laid out the measurements. The lady goes, okay, do the bid. She's going to come right back. Took a moment or two, and I'm thinking, boy, how hard is it to do an estimate on glasses? Must be expensive. She comes back, says $80. She pick it up tomorrow afternoon.
Wow,
can't go wrong. And it's really been a great piece.
Nice. I'll check. That's a good idea for the kitchen table. I like that idea. Cool. All right. Well,
it looks cool too.
It does sound awesome. So, any other comments? I look at the Dunkin' Donuts guy starting to give us the evil eye.
Yeah, we get the stink eye.
I'll tell you briefly about the game room that never was.
Oh, yeah.
It ties some great ideas together. We looked at a house before we bought this one. It had a finished room above a 3-car garage. Ooh. So it was square footage was massive. It had steps into the garage, but then was connected to the house down a separate hallway. It had a half bath and just immense wall space. There was only a small window for a little bit of natural light. The rest of it was just wall space.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic.
And I thought, so you got game space, you have storage space, you have privacy, you have a restroom, but the best part is if you did run into a case of gamer funk, you could just open up the giant garage doors and the airflow, you would clear out the problem in no time. And it was very compelling to want me to buy the house, but men have 49% of that vote. And we did not buy that house.
Right. Well, and that's one of the reasons I'm kind of getting on board with my wife's sunroom idea, because sunrooms have really easy to open windows to get the air through in the summertime. Just blast that gamer funk right out of there. It'd be awesome. My wife's looking at me like, what are you doing to my sunroom now? So anyway, moving right along. So Dunks is giving us evil eye, so we got to move along. Angelo, thank you so much for taking the time out.
Yes,
and
Angelo,
joining us
thanks.
in Los Angeles.
Good to talk to you again.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you, gentlemen.
Always happy to have you on the show. And take care. We look forward to our next time seeing you at a La Quinta nearby.
Ah, yes.
Very good.
Bye.
Thanks for purchasing a D6G Lost chapter. Supporting the show helps it grow.
That's something the Kiwis can hold over the Australians, that their phone systems
they can
better.
hold over a lot. They can also hold over $400 fines for trying to sneak in a single apple.
Wow.
One of the guys on the trip did. They give you an apple. Qantas gives you an apple like at the lowest circadian rhythm moment of the flight over, so you don't even know you got it, and you're like, okay, whatever. And this poor guy put it in his backpack and didn't even remember that he had it. And it's a $400 fine for bringing foreign fruit into New Zealand with absolutely no exceptions whatsoever.
Wow.
That is a brilliant revenue stream.
It is.
It is. I guarantee you that there's some sort of kickback to Qantas. They're at least paying for the apples.
I've got to get in on that.
That is a good system.